Good morning, 7th grade. Welcome to week 11. Today is day 1, June 1st. I am going to quickly go over your review today. You are scheduled to have a 20-question assessment tomorrow on angles. It's really just the review of angle basics, so you will not see any algebra on the assessment. But it's more so just going over the vocabulary and being sure that you can identify the different angles and find missing measures, again, without algebra, okay? So I'm going to take you to your classwork tab. You will scroll down. You'll see week 11, day 1, June 1st. So you're going to click on that. I just put another reminder, be sure to study your angles. Assessment tomorrow, 20 questions on angles with no algebra, okay? So we'll click on this. You have your warm-up. What type of angle would be 93 degrees? So out of the choices, you have right, straight, obtuse, or acute. And at this point, you guys should know the definitions of those 4 words. So you should know which type of angle 93 degrees would fall into. And that answer would be obtuse. Okay, so remember, obtuse angles are any angle whose measure is more than 90 but less than 180 degrees. As we continue going through, you'll see we review the 4 different basic angles. That's how we started our unit, going over acute, which is less than 90, right, which is exactly 90, obtuse, which is more than 90 but less than 180, like the one we just saw, and straight, which equals exactly 180 degrees. Okay, so you do need to make sure you review those 4 in addition for tomorrow's assessment. Then we go over complementary angles. So remember, complementary angles equal 90 degrees. They form a right angle, and it's when you have 2 angles, when they are added together, they equal to 90. So a trick is to remember to take the C, turn into a 9 to remind you of 90 degrees. Okay, the other one would be supplementary. Supplementary equals 180 degrees. They form a straight angle or a line. When you add them together, they're going to equal to 180. So the trick is taking the S and turning it into an 8 to help you remember 180 degrees. Okay. Other types of angles we've reviewed. The angles that are formed when you have parallel lines cut by a transversal. So here's your chart that we posted for support, but it's a review of your definition and a diagram of each. So you have your transversal, that's the line that cuts the parallel lines to form these different angles. You have corresponding angles, which is one angle's interior, one angle's exterior. They're on the same side of the transversal, and they are congruent in measure. You have alternate interior angles. Alternate interior angles are inside of the parallel lines. They're on opposite sides of the transversal. They are not next to each other. We also say non-adjacent, and they are also congruent in measure, which means equal. Alternate exterior angles are almost the same, just that they are outside of the parallel lines. So they're outside on opposite sides of the transversal. They're non-adjacent, they're not next to each other, and they are also equal in measure or congruent. Supplementary angles we just went over. They're going to be your 2 angles. When you put them together, make a straight line, okay, and their sum is 180 degrees. Vertical angles are the angles that are across from each other. They do not share a common side. They only share a common vertex, and they are also congruent or equal in measure. And then this one down at the bottom is consecutive interior. That just means if you're looking at angles inside and they're on the same side of the transversal, they're going to be equal to 180. Okay? So then here is another review of identifying the angles. We did this as a warm-up one day last week. I forget which day. But you should be able to identify the relationship between the 2 angles that are provided. So for example, 1 and 5 we would call corresponding. Okay, you should be able to look at this diagram now and find those relationships. 6 and 7, they would be supplementary because they would form a straight line. 2 and 4, they would be vertical because they are across from each other, not sharing common side, only a common vertex. Alternate exterior would be 2 and 8, so up here, oops, I went too far. 2 is up here, right? And then 8's down here. Opposite sides, not next to each other, equal in measure. You have another corresponding, and then you have alternate interior, which could be 3 and 5 or 6 and 4. Okay, so make sure you go over that diagram. Really be sure you can identify those words and the relationship that these angles have. Here's some more practice, right? Being able to identify whether they're corresponding, alternate interior or alternate exterior. If you review these, guys, I think you'll be perfectly fine on the assessment tomorrow. Like I said, it's all about the basics, all about the vocabulary and finding those measures. So just make sure that you really go over that understanding. Then there will be some questions where they ask you to find the angle measures. Again, there won't be algebra, it'll just be basic arithmetic. So the most you would probably have to do would be something like this, right? 110 plus 70 to give you the 180. Remember our dot method, right? If you like that, you make the zigzag. Anywhere there's a dot, those angles are going to be equal. Anywhere there's no dot, those angles are going to be equal. And anywhere there's a dot and no dot, those angles are supplementary. They would add to 180. Remember, you should only have 2 angle measures in these types of problems. So here's another practice, right? Giving you the angle measure of 110. You should be able to take that one angle and find every other angle in this diagram, okay? So there it is, modeled using the dot method. You can also use your understanding of the vocabulary to find those angle measures as well. And then you have your review form. So that's the end of the lesson. You'll then go to your Google form, which is your review sheet. So I would make sure that as you go through the review sheet, if it was me, I would probably take notes on each question just to make sure I really understand. I wonder what happened here. Okay, I will fix that. Just to make sure you really understand each question. And I think if you take your time, practice, review, you guys should have no problem tomorrow. Okay? Have a great night.